If you watched my previous video, then you would know that obviously at this moment in time, migrants are entering high schools because they were supposed to be a different area, a designated area. And of course, the thing fell apart and now they're suddenly staying inside Brooklyn high schools. But now when you look at this report here, which I just got a hold of earlier today, you can now see the effects of what happens when people stay in shelters too long. And by that, I mean, after a while, they're going to start fighting with the homeless. Now, this first news report is going to tell you guys all about that. And of course, there's going to be multiple news reports to go along with this one here. So make sure you guys stick around for the full video as we dive into this one.
Desperately seek shelter. A melee broke out at an East Village processing center this morning. That is where our Stephanie Bertini is live right now with the latest. And Stephanie, what happened there?
Arthur, well, right now it's cold out here, it's windy, it's wet. During this kind of weather, the most vulnerable are most at risk. Here in New York City, that includes migrants and the homeless population, and that can translate into a range of emotions. We saw evidence of that here earlier today. Volunteers at Tompkins Square Park are helping migrants get some things that could offer a little comfort in the face of the harsh weather in the forecast tonight.
They hand us some food and this to keep us warm because it's very cold out here.
This man from Guinea, West Africa, is one of the many asylum seekers in New York City now facing uncertainty as shelters are at capacity. On a night like this, that uncertainty can create a range of emotions, including fear. And you're not used to this weather, right?
We are not. This is a strange environment.
Earlier today, emotions were high not too far from the park in front of the former St. Bridget's School, now operating as a shelter reentry center for migrants during this crisis, as limits on shelter stays were imposed by the city months ago.
There are literally hundreds every day lined up around the block, all the way to the next block and around the corner.
This morning, ahead of the storm and the forecast, police were called after an altercation broke out. The NYPD says 2 officers sustained minor injuries and 2 migrants are facing several charges now, including resisting arrest. According to a witness, it had to do with someone cutting the line. They are not respecting the line. That's why the problem happened, he said. The Department of Homeless Services says tonight a code blue is in place, meaning if you need a warm bed, you should be able to access one. But with the overflow in shelters between the migrant population and the homeless in New York City, there are doubts. In a statement from Housing Justice for All, thousands of our homeless neighbors, including families and children, will be forced to endure freezing temperatures on the streets today. Some may die. And of course, as the weather gets worse tonight, anything can help. Outreach workers are out making sure.
Now, really quick, before I go any further in this video, there is something I do want to address, and it's this gentleman here. This guy is actually from Africa, Guinea to be exact, and he's talking about the place being a strange land. I'm kind of sitting here thinking to myself, you know what? Before you decide to hop on a plane or whatever and try to cross Mexico or try to cross other borders, and remember, some of these people are coming from South America, so therefore they're crossing into Panama, Guatemala, Costa Rica, El Salvador, areas where they could seek some form of shelter or some form of asylum. But of course, you trek across all this land. Maybe you might want to get an idea of exactly what the weather is going to be like in these areas, especially come wintertime. So while I do feel bad for some of these people, especially the people who have been in line for a very long time, seeing other people hop the line, I also don't feel bad for them because, quite frankly, you should not be here to begin with because you should not be breaking our laws. You should be coming through here the right way. But then again, though, we have a current administration that is obviously letting anybody and everybody in. And, of course, we're not properly vetting these people. Now, really quick. Why in the world would these people be coming in? As you guys already know, the current president of the United States has completely opened up the border. And, of course, the governor of Texas, he is saying, screw this crap. You voted for this crap. We're going to send them to you. We're not going to have all the burden on the state of Texas. However, CBS Chicago, they did a report, and my God, they recently just found out why it is the migrants are going to their cities. Pay very close attention.
What we're seeing is that it is fluctuating greatly from day to day.
Before asylum seekers get to Chicago, they arrive at border cities like El Paso. John Martin, who helps run a network of shelters there, is there to meet them.
A typical stay for us is typically between 2 to 3 days. We work with them to get them to their destination of choice, which varies.
Martin says migrants are choosing to go to cities all over the country, but the top destinations continue to be Denver, New York City, and Chicago.
We know it's cold here in Chicago, and it's only getting colder. Why do you believe people are still choosing Chicago as their destination?
I think the predominant issue is that whether it be, and in your case, probably unintentional, is that they now have a support network within Chicago. Support network being others that have preceded them at that point.
Meaning family and friends who have come to Chicago and are now established here. The city has received over 26,000 migrants since last August. Mayor Brandon Johnson warning space is running out, and now we're learning so are the funds.
Local municipalities are not structured to be able to carry the weight of a crisis like this.
We've learned Chicago is using $95 million of COVID relief funds to foot the bill for migrant expenses instead. And now mayors across the country, including ours, are calling on the federal government to help.
So New York, Denver, Chicago. Denver's not like a top 20 American city anymore as far as population is concerned, but the state of Colorado is definitely going woke. The city of Chicago has a manpower shortage right now when it comes to police departments, and their budget is completely strained. These people obviously want to go to the federal government to look for the woke welfare to take care of the situation. Of course, some of these people are saying, look, it was actually included in the COVID payments to take care of this stuff, and I guess they find out that the money that was given to them is not exactly enough. So I wonder what happens next. Now, guys, we're going to look at another news report. We're going to come back and talk about this because the truth be told is this video here is not so much it's about homeless people getting into it with migrants. It's also really and truly about the weather situation, and it's also about the fact that this is now a humanitarian crisis, which is only getting worse. And, of course, those eviction notices, especially for those who have been here beyond July the 21st. And, of course, we're going to talk once again about economic migrants and why it is that this entire thing of economic migrants is only going to make matters worse, especially given the fact that the money these people make and the money that these people are given from the U.S. federal government doesn't go into the U.S. economy, but it actually goes into these people's nations of origins. Families' pockets.
Grim New Year for thousands of migrant families living in New York City's emergency shelter system. Their 60-day stay in packed city shelters expires in the coming days, requiring them to reapply for housing. Many of them are worried about where they will end up. Eyewitness News reporter Anthony Carlo has more from the East Village.
I don't have nothing. I don't have house. I don't have family. I don't have nothing, you know.
Like a lost soul, Ricardo Dominguez Reyes wanders the East Village. The asylum seeker came here all the way from Honduras, hoping to get help at this intake center, to no avail.
It says closed. Yeah, maybe I sleep in parque. Yeah, it's too much cold, you know. No eat. 3 days no eat.
Hundreds of adult migrants waited in the cold Saturday outside the St. Bridget's school, rushing to reapply for shelter. Their stay expires every 30 days. It all came to a head when one asylum seeker tried to cut the line, causing a fight that injured 2 cops. Crystal Gordon lives nearby.
It's always altercations with them because they're trying to fight for survival. They're fighting for survival, so, you know, it's going to be altercations because it's unorganized.
Immigration advocates are anticipating more chaos this week when the first wave of migrant families run out of time in the shelter system. The city issuing more than 4,000 notices to asylum seekers with children, warning their 60-day limit is set to expire. But that's not really freeing up space like intended, says Liza Schwartzwald.
It's really just sort of punishing people who've been here for longer.
The New York Immigration Coalition says the city's short-term fix is failing, and it should instead prioritize permanent housing by expanding its FEPS voucher program for asylum seekers.
We're taking traumatized families and we're saying every 60 days, we're going to push you out again. You're going to have to go wait online. We may or may not have places for these children to go at night. You know, we haven't even had it confirmed that whether they'll have to leave the shelters, specifically wait on these lines. Like, all of that is still up in the air.
It's peaceful here tonight in the East Village, but people who live over here say it's been a chaotic past few days. They echo what migrant advocates say. There has to be a better way to help these asylum seekers.
Now, you guys obviously saw that. Some of that, of course, was rehashed at the first, somebody hopping the line, cops getting injured, people getting into fights. Of course, you hear people complaining about the fact that they don't have any family here, but of course, they're all economic migrants, and of course, they plan on sending whatever money they get back to their family rather than using it here, putting it into our economy. Let me say this really quick. To the lady in the glasses at the very, very end who was talking about putting migrants in other places, look, these people have been staying inside hotels in New York. They've actually booted veterans out of areas. You have homeless veterans who, quite frankly, fought for the nation. And, of course, they've not been able to get stable work or anything, which, by the way, would actually be pretty funny if a bunch of homeless people who are angry about the migrant situation end up going out and actually are allowed to vote in 2024. I'm pretty sure that they're going to vote for the person who is saying no to the migrants. But then again, at the same time, as I've always got to say to anybody who keeps up with this topic, that these types of situations are normally just a minor inconvenience for someone who's homeless. But still, now that you've got the migrants in there, they're making the homeless life, which of course is obviously pretty bad if you're homeless, but still, if you're making homeless people's lives a living hell, then apparently this right here is going to be a problem. Now, guys, in the previous video, I discussed the high school situation and why it was that migrants were being put inside the high school. And I wanted to provide a little bit more nuance to the situation. But the thing that really gets me is after hearing her say we're looking for actual housing and houses for these people, it makes me think that maybe the anger in the city is really and truly going to boil over. You see, it's now not just black people who are upset. It's also white liberals, white Democrats, white moderates, and probably some white conservatives. Not that many in these cities, but of course, when you look at it, they're probably sitting there saying, we told you this was going to happen. And of course, these white moderates, these white suburbanites, these whites who actually have homes in Brooklyn and Queens, they are probably a little bit pissed off at the situation. If you want to see some pissed off liberals, then all you got to do is just tell people that these migrants are coming into their house, which we shouldn't even be calling these people liberals because they're really not. They're just virtue signalers is what they are. As I said in the previous video, they kind of show you who the hell they are by the way they vote, because they typically tend to vote for the people who are going to give the minorities where the hell they want. So that way they stay out of their neighborhoods. That's the real truth of the situation. I know somebody's going to probably throw some shade at me in the comments, but go right ahead. I really don't care. The thing is this right here. This situation, of course, as I've been saying, is completely and totally untenable. And now you've got the winner. Now, one thing that we're not seeing a high amount of is shootings, but I'm pretty sure that that right there is coming probably this coming year. I mean, we're only about maybe 5 months away from when the weather begins to start warming up. Language is a little bit jacked up tonight for some odd reason. Maybe it's just the way I'm putting my thoughts into this video, but still, though, there's definitely a lot more to come, especially when city councils begin to get involved and people, of course, begin to get concerned about
human crisis in New York City. About 40 families of asylum seekers tomorrow must leave their homes. Their 60 days of living in a hotel at public expense has now expired, and today their kids went to school while the parents started packing up. So where will they go, and how do they pay for all this? Eyewitness News reporter Darla Miles live in Midtown with the story for us. Darla?
Bill, some families living here at the Row Hotel, they have a checkout tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, and that will be the process every day moving forward for any family living here at the Row Hotel that has reached that 60-day limit. Now, today, immigration advocates say they do not want the city to implement this rule. They want to stop it before they even start it tomorrow. However, the city says you don't see people living on the streets now, and this will not result in that either. As innocent and as giddy as he can be, this 10-year-old boy from Venezuela, smiling as he points to his school just a few blocks away. But his mother didn't send him or his siblings to school today. She says they didn't go because we're really trying to figure out what we're going to do, because I have to leave the hotel tomorrow. Migrant families with children who have not found permanent housing living at the Row Hotel in Midtown are preparing for move-out day Tuesday. The measure is initially expected to impact between 50 and 60 families. Mayor Adams and his senior staff outlining the plan Monday morning.
If your child is in elementary school, you're the highest priority for us to immediately and quickly give you another placement in Manhattan.
The plan requires families to pack up and move out of their hotel while their kids are at school, then go back to the arrival center at the Roosevelt Hotel to receive a new placement.
Okay, so you're being told to move your stuff while your kids are at school, which I'm still trying to figure out how the kids even got to school. There's also the human trafficking element that we got to worry about, but we'll probably talk more about that in the much, much larger immigration video I have planned, which is going to be more of a video essay than anything else. you got this right here going on, and you're complaining that you got to move around, yet you're still allowed to go back to what is considered to be an assembly area in the Roosevelt Hotel. Very nice hotel, by the way, in New York. Well, some people may say it's a dump, but of course, if you live in New York, you may think that. But if you live somewhere I am, and you go to New York City and you see a place that even looks nice, at least in the lobby, you're probably going to think this place is actually very nice. But pay attention to this very next part.
Out of space, we're running out of personnel, and we certainly are running out of funds. And so we really have to move from an emergency to managing this in a way that makes sense.
Evicting families with school-age children on any day of the year is inhumane and unjustified.
But also Monday morning, immigration advocates rallying in Foley Square, calling the plan disruptive and destabilizing for families.
Children and their families will sleep on the floor of offices. They will sleep on the street outside of St. Bridget's. Nothing good will come of this.
New York City adopting this strategy from Chicago, Denver, and the state of Massachusetts, saying it's an effective approach for both the city and families to aggressively look for permanent housing.
When someone state that this administration and New Yorkers are going to have children and families sleeping on the street, there is zero evidence of that.
Now, the city says, again, this is the only city of all of the cities dealing with the migrant crisis that even has an arrival center. They say the city is one up on that. And they also say that the city has done this 90,000 times. 90,000 migrants who have lived here, who have come here, have been resettled.
You're not going to find permanent housing anytime soon. I just want to go ahead and say that right now. As I've said before, you've already got a situation where migrants are being put inside schools. This right here obviously screws with a child's education. People, the taxpayers of the city of New York who send their kids to school every day, and now you're talking about permanent housing. We're right back to that one more time. However, the thing is this right here, as I said in the previous video, the best option you have really is just to pay for a plane ticket and send them back. I mean, I understand plane tickets are expensive, but the best thing you could do at this moment in time is just send the migrants back to the country of their origin, especially those who came here after July 21st. You see, if you came here beyond July the 21st, you were running into the possibility of a extremely harsh weather. Extremely hard winter, cold, no food. I mean, to me, it almost feels like these people that are being put inside beds or whatnot, or have to find a bed, it's almost like a penny sit-up. Now, if you don't know what a penny sit-up is, back in the old days in England, in these cities, and I don't know, maybe the United States did it too, they used to have these things where people who worked late nights, hobos, whatever, would go inside these areas and they would want to go to sleep. Well, they wanted to go to sleep somewhere where it wasn't exactly cold, but there wasn't exactly a bed. So a lot of times what they would do is they would actually prop them up, pretty much in a seat on the wall, and they would lay their head over a piece of rope. It was called a penny sit-up. You pay a penny, next thing you know, you get to sleep. Yeah, you just heard a horn go off, but still at the same time, I probably shouldn't even, given notice that, but still at the same time, it doesn't really matter. The thing is this right here, the city of New York is obviously, it seems like they're the city that's got the major crisis going on right now, where Chicago was the first one. I called this a while back that New York was going to go through this as well. Now, the thing about the weather is it's only going to get colder over the next 6 to 8 weeks, maybe even longer than that. Normally what happens in winter is that your coldest months are January and February, and you have a very cold early March, and then things begin to get a little bit warmer, and then after a while, it really gets chaotic. Now, can you imagine the stench of people? And I'm not saying this in a negative way, because as we all know, if you don't shower, if you don't bathe over a period of time, if you don't have the facilities going to do that, after a while, sanitary issues, they continue to get worse. And then to go on top of that, you've also got the fact that the city of New York has cut their sanitation department, and it looks like that sanitation department is going to be cut for a while, and law enforcement, at least the next 5 classes have been cut. It's about to get much, much messier than I personally originally thought, not to mention the fact that now you've got homeless people fighting with migrants. You got people hopping the line. Cops are getting injured. It's almost like the city of New York is one great big giant powder keg, and it's about to blow. And in what direction does it blow? It blows probably to the right. As I said in the previous video, now more and more migrants are being put in areas that quite frankly interrupt taxpayers' lives, people who actually get politically involved. And go back to those people who were saying we need to keep the migrants here. What do you think is going to happen if the migrants are in fact sent back to their country of origin after they have been officially evicted? These people are probably going to get pissed off with the remaining government. But of course, the city of New York, people are trying to set this narrative up that it's actually Texas that's doing this. And because a bunch of people on the left who live in this area who are advocating for this aren't exactly bright, you could probably see that as well. Either way, though, the city is turning into an absolute powder keg, and they're probably going to march towards the person who is saying send these people back. That right there is the truth of the situation. Now, guys, this video right here was, I guess you could say, not meant to be that long, but there is one more thing I do need to discuss, and it's something I discussed in the previous video. It's the economic migrant factor. Now, I personally think we have to do something about the homeless. I think that what we need to do is we need to put the homeless in shelters, and that we need to actually get them a job. Of course, there was a documentary I saw a while back. I'll try to find a link in the description box on how it is that a lot of the homeless, especially in Los Angeles, they can't really get a job. They don't want to stay inside the housing because of the requirements of the place that they'd be staying in, the shelters themselves. And of course, it's not working out the way they thought it was going to work out. But still, though, at the same time, I think we need to try to get these people some work, try to get them some mental health. And of course, we need to try to help these people out because they are still American citizens. I hate the idea of hearing about homeless veterans out there who can't find work. I think we need to take care of those definitely before we take care of migrants, people who aren't exactly American citizens, people who don't have any actual ties to the country. Which brings me to my next point about economic migrants. See, I didn't make this point hard enough in the last video. I kind of feel a little bit embarrassed by it, and you'll probably think you actually probably wasn't that best of a take. But a lot of these people are coming over as economic migrants. And of course, you kind of can't blame them in a way, given the fact that we have an administration that's just opening the border wall up to everybody. But still, at the same time, the thing is this right here. These migrants are not contributing to the U.S. economy. We're giving them benefits that they're sending back to their families. The money that they do make when they are given a job that somebody else can have, they're just sending it back to their family. They're not putting it into the U.S. economy. That really is a sad reality of the situation. So when I hear people talking about, well, they just take the jobs nobody else wants, I'm kind of looking at them and thinking to myself, the jobs that mostly people don't want are starter jobs. So that leaves a lot of young people out there who, quite frankly, are looking at the situation and they're thinking to themselves, well, I don't really have a job, or I don't really have any opportunity right now. So therefore, it definitely creates a measure of vitriol and anger in society. What do you think is going to happen as a result of this? Military-age males who can't find work, who are suddenly frustrated. They have to go to little red light districts. They see their neighborhoods are absolutely trash. And then you have young people out there who work their ass off to get even a sliver of paycheck, now seeing they can't get one because migrants are here. It creates an extremely volatile situation. It's only going to get worse, especially come summertime. Now, guys, I'm going to go ahead and halt this video, but before I do, I'm going to give you guys just a couple quick updates. Just some points that are being reiterated in the previous video. It won't take but a second. This is probably the last day that I release like 3 videos in a day. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday are going to be like one a day, and Monday is also scheduled to be a one a day. Those videos will be a little bit more essay in nature. I've been telling you guys I'm working on a bit of a media series. However, one video we're going to be working on is something in response to this one. There's also going to be the media, how wrestling is using, how the mainstream media is using the wrestling model to manipulate people. And of course, there's going to be one on do kids actually grow out of things. Part 4, I wrote down. I'll just explain that a little bit over the weekend. So that's going to be the idea, is to get one video out roughly a day, a little bit more consistent, a little bit more, let's just say a little bit more detailed. That's actually the goal at this moment in time. So if you notice the shift over the weekend, that's the direction that we're going into. It also allows me more time to do more research, and it also allows me more time to also work on the other projects, of which, by the way, Gear Issue 33, I'm going to link it in a couple of videos in the description box for you guys to go check out. And I'm also going to, here's my Facebook page. Make sure you guys follow me on Facebook, and also follow me on Twitter or X if you guys can get there. Make sure you guys hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, sound off in the comment section. Please tell me what you think, and I'll see you guys later.